Hi, and welcome to the third episode in the 365 Days of Compassion video series. I'm Chris, and I'm sharing my experience of compassion focused therapy, CFT, which incorporates compassion and mind training and how it helps me. I'm going to stress this in every episode. I'm not an expert, I'm not a trained professional. This is purely me sharing my experience of what I learned initially in a therapeutic setting and what I've continued to learn in everyday life. So this episode is going to take a look at another of the core concepts of CFT, which is around the flow of compassion, which I briefly mentioned I think in episode 2. In episode 2 we looked at the three emotional systems, threat, drive and soothing. In this episode we're going to look at another three things, the three flows of compassion. So that's compassion to others, compassion from others and compassion to ourselves. So we're going to take a look at each one in turn. And I'm going to start off with the one that's perhaps the most easiest, or perhaps we think it's the most easiest, although I think there may be some aspects to it which aren't quite as straightforward as we might think, and that is showing compassion to others. So I think this is a flow of compassion that comes naturally to many of us, if not all of us. Showing compassion, showing help, kindness, caring behaviour towards others, especially those who we're close to. If you see a family member or a friend in distress or needing some help, we are likely to offer that help. Of course, sometimes whether that's actually needed or not, and sometimes it can come at a cost to ourselves as well. But what about compassion to others who aren't perhaps as close to us, to strangers, or to people who may not share our views or who are different to us? Does compassion become harder to those? Research does suggest it does. Research does also show, however, that acting and being compassionate towards others when we can, and these don't have to be big things, these can be small acts of kindness, bring with them positive effects to our own well-being. There's a quote from Professor Paul Gilbert, the founder of CFT, who has said, "If you spread sunshine to others, it can brighten you up too," which I like that quote. So that's the flow of compassion from us to others. What about the flow of compassion from others to us? So that kind of feels like that shouldn't be a problem. Well, for many it can be. And I'm not talking about big compassionate acts here. You know, somebody passes you a compliment. I know personally, if somebody passes me a compliment, I'm terrible for trying to deflect it with humour. Usually not very good humour either. I'm allowed to do dad jokes, but I deflect rather than kind of accepting that compliment. Often we can also become so wrapped up in our daily lives, our very busy daily lives, that we don't notice sometimes when someone shows us some kindness or interacts with us with some warmth. Again, that could be a very simple thing. It could be somebody just in a shop, in a day-to-day, everyday interaction. We're often so busy that we don't notice those things. And the reason this is important, aside from times when we do need support from others, but those little acts of kindness, those little moments of interaction, the reason these are important is that research has shown that this is important for us in terms of fostering feelings of connection and shared experience, which are all important factors to our own mental well-being. So that's a brief look at compassion from others. The one that I'm going to explore a little bit more, and this is certainly going to feature in some of the future episodes as well, is that third flow, and this is to ourselves. So come on, hands up. Who finds self-compassion difficult? For many it is. for many reasons, for many different reasons. It can be seen as being soft on ourselves. It can be misunderstood. Oh, it's okay, I'm going to be nice to myself, everything will be fine. It can even be seen as being self-indulgent. There are some people who may fear that without the kind of drive and the critical kind of voice inside, that they won't be as successful as they have been. The simple truth is that most of us, I'd probably argue just about all of us, are incredibly critical and incredibly harsh judges of ourselves. We use a tone and language when we're talking to ourselves that we wouldn't say to somebody else, or nor would we probably say out loud. So the key question there is, does it help? So let's consider a scenario. You're looking to learn something new and looking for a teacher or a coach, and you have the choice of two. And as part of the initial engagement with the teacher and the coach, you have to perform a test. And post-test, Coach A comes along, looks at your test results, highlights all your weaknesses, finds critical failings in most of what you did, even the good bits, and talks in a fairly aggressive manner about how much work they need to do to help you. Coach B reviews your test results, highlights some of the areas of strengths that you've got, and suggests areas that may need some improvement, talking in an encouraging and supportive manner. So which one are we going to pick? It's an easy choice, right? So the question then is, why do we often employ Coach A as our inner voice? But we do. I'm going to revisit self-compassion, because that's what we're talking about here, and a number of the future episodes. I think it's such a key piece, especially within certain things like depression, and it underpins so many things. It underpins the three flows, in fact, and I'll explain more on that in future episodes. So, why are the three flows of compassion important? Well, they're important fundamentally to our well-being, mental well-being, and it's important that we keep them in balance. It's a little bit similar, their concept, to the three systems. It's often the case that we can sometimes have these flows out of balance. We can be incredibly compassionate towards others, offering a lot of help, offering care to others, not really being that comfortable taking care of them back, and certainly not thinking about our own well-being. In fact, you could argue often we can neglect our own well-being. For me, I also think that the flows support a compassionate attribute, which is wisdom, and a compassionate activity, which I think is setting boundaries. Perhaps acting with our three emotional systems in balance and thinking about our flows, we may consider more wisely how to help somebody. Perhaps, when someone has a problem, it's listening to them without judgment, and not necessarily trying to solve the problem. And then in terms of considering self-compassion, looking after ourselves to be at our best so we can actually support others, may actually involve having to say no, and being clear around some boundaries. So in summary, three flows of compassion: to others, from others and to ourselves, all are important to our well-being, and it's important to keep them balanced. As always, I want to finish on a recommendation. It's a book this time, CFT for Dummies by Dr. Mary Welford. Mary was one of the founders of the Compassionate Mind Foundation, alongside Paul Gilbert and others. It's a typical dummies book in terms of the way it's laid out, but what I really like about this book, which covers the concepts, and it covers some of the exercises and the practices as part of compassionate mind training. But what I really love about the book is the way that Mary's written it in a very down to earth, and it's very open and honest, which completely makes it feel very authentic. So that's my recommendation this week. I hope this has been another useful episode. In the next episode, I'm going to consider our different selves, particularly focusing upon our compassionate self. Thanks for watching, take care, and bye for now.